let's prepare ourselves. Put your hand over your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And now over your ears. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. Now just put your hand over your heart and extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is the same one that I worked with last week, and quite likely it's the same one I'm going to be working with next week. It's the spiritual truth that sort of is the foundation of this series called Ask It. And the spiritual truth is this: spiritual awareness will yield you happiness. Spiritual awareness will yield you happiness. It will yield you joy. It will yield you a deeper connection with those people that you're in relationship with right now, and it will attract new people into your life. Spiritual awareness will make you rich in every possible way. Spiritual awareness. The Toltecs say it this way. They say, wake up from the dream. Wake up from the dream. Apostle Paul says, as we talked about last week, watch where you're walking. Lao Tzu says it this way. He says, you might want to change direction because otherwise you'll get where you're heading to. Spiritual awareness. And ask it. This question that we're asking ourselves to ask, and we hope, my hope and my prayer is it becomes central to us. This one simple question becomes central to everything we do, every invitation we have, every decision we have to make. We stop and we ask this one simple question: is this the wise thing for me to do? In light of my past experiences, is it the wise thing for me to do? Not for you or anybody else, not for society, but for me. In light of my current circumstances, is this the wise thing for me to do? In light of my future hopes and dreams, is it the wise thing for me to do? And if we can teach ourselves to ask that question, we will be able to save ourselves a whole lot of time. We'll be able to save ourselves a whole lot of money. We'll be able to save ourselves a whole lot of tears. In fact, I believe that if we learn to ask this question, if it becomes second nature to us, and we don't avoid it, we will be able to just skip all the regrets that might lie ahead for us. This one simple question. So we have more about that in the bookstore or online if you want to get week one. But here is the thing. You and I know as metaphysicians, and especially if you've taken foundations, you know that whenever you start on a new path, whenever you try and reorganize your consciousness to do something different, to respond to life in a different way, you know that all the things unlike your new path are going to come up for a little speech, a little talking to. You know how that is? So today, last week we went to the Christian scripture from the Apostle Paul in the book of Ephesians, and today we're going to go to our Jewish ancestors and look at the wisdom of the wisest man in all the world, Solomon, from the book of Proverbs. And Solomon says in the book of Proverbs, he says there are 4 different kinds of people. Now, I hate to argue with Solomon straight up, but I have to do that right in the beginning. Because here's the thing. You and I know, and Sister Azana said it so beautifully in her prayer, there's only one kind of person. One kind. The person who is whole, perfect, and complete. That's the person. There's only one kind of people, Solomon. One. The person who is whole, perfect, and complete. But you and I know also that there are states of consciousness, there are states of being, there are states of attitude, there are states of spiritual awareness that are sometimes not representative of being whole, perfect, and complete. Solomon calls them categories. So we're going to talk about these 3 other categories. The first, he says there are 4 people. The first one is the wise person, and then there are 3 others. Okay, we're going to talk about the 3 others today. The wise person is the person who says, is this the wise thing for me to do? Now, here are the 3 other people. Now, when I talk about them, I don't want you to think of them as labels. They're not labels. Think of them as spiritual viruses that you get. You know, get a little spiritual virus and it kind of knocks you out for a couple of days and you get back on it. Okay. So the first one is, the first category is the person who is simple. He says there are simple people in the world, and those people can't legitimately ask our question, is this the wise thing for me to do? Because they have no experience in life. They have nothing to draw from when they ask that question. They're not dumb. They're not bad. They're just inexperienced. You know, Taylor Swift has that great song, and she says, when you're 15 years old and somebody tells you that they love you, you're going to what? Believe them. Right. When you're 15 years old and somebody tells you they love you, you're going to believe them. Why? Because you're 15 years old. Not because you're bad. That's what happens when we get into that place of us that feels naive in our life. Sometimes we call it clueless in our lives. Now, you might want to be saying to me right now, Reverend Georgia, look, if you're going to talk about 15-year-old consciousness, you're going to talk about people who are 15 years old, why don't you go across the street to the teen annex and talk to those people about this issue? My experience has been, in my life, there are times still when I revert back to 15-year-old wisdom. That wisdom that says, I don't really have experience in this issue. I'm kind of clueless about what this is. You know, maybe for you it's love. Maybe for you it's money. You're kind of clueless around how to handle money appropriately. Maybe for you it's clueless around how to advance your career because you don't have experience. You're kind of simple. You're a little bit clueless in that area. And maybe for you it's not you, but maybe you know somebody in your family or your other people who say, you know, my sister is so clueless. She is just so clueless. She might be in the simple area. But I think if we look hard enough in the mirror, chances are we can find a place in our own life where we have been clueless. Yeah. Those of us in recovery, we know that we've been told recovery wisdom that says when we picked up the booze or the needle or whatever we were putting up our nose, we stopped maturing. We stopped maturing. And so we got stuck in this simple area. I can remember the first time after I sobered up and I went to a party. And I had no clue how people dated or flirted or did anything else in a sober way. I was simple. I was clueless in that area. Now, Solomon, he understands. He says, look, there are opportunities for simple people to get wisdom. But it's not from their own depth. It's from asking help from others. And that's one of the hardest things for us to do. We Americans, we don't like to ask for help from other people. And in order to be able to get wisdom, we've got to learn how to be able to do that in our life. Now, here's the thing you want to be aware of, the cautionary tale about asking for help from wisdom from other people. You want to make sure you're asking from people who understand you are a divinely potential being. Don't ask your help from the hand wringers. Don't ask your help from the people who want to keep you small. You want to find your wisdom from the metaphysicians who have their feet firmly on the ground and their head in the clouds and see the absolute divine, unlimited potential that you are. But if you're simple, don't try and do it alone. because you don't have the depth, Solomon says to us. He says the second person. Now, I want you to know that I could have changed Solomon's words, because you know me, I change the Bible all the time, but I decided not to this time. I decided to go ahead and use Solomon's words because they're a little harsh. They're a little, the Old Testament, the Torah can be a little harsh, that language. And so I decided to use his language anyway. First of all, it's scriptural language. And secondly, it kind of like made me go, whoa, wait a minute. It made me think about it a little differently, a little deeper. So the second person that he says, the second category is the fool. Now, the fool is the person who knows better. The simple person, they don't know. They don't have experience. The fool knows. The fool knows and does it anyway. The fool, you tell the fool something and they say, I know that. You show them the side of the package. The Surgeon General, I know that. I know that. Were you going to do it anyway? Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. I know that. You did that in your last marriage. You wanted this marriage to be differently. Do you want to do? Yeah, I want to do that. That's fun. I'm going to do that. See, the fool knows, but wants to do it anyway. The fool says, I don't give a whatever the fool wants to say. Here's the point. You tell the fool, don't invest in that. Look at all the people who've invested in that. I know. I'm going to do it anyway. It's going to be different for me. It's going to be different. Now, I know none of you are the fool or ever sit in the fool's chair, but you all know some fools in your life, don't you? Yeah, you do. So here's the problem with the fool. The problem with any of this, they're not bad. They can't ask the question. They can't ask the question, is this the wise thing? When you sit in the fool's chair, you cannot ask that question because you're not thinking clearly. See, part of the problem with the fool also says, look, it's my life. I'm going to do it if I want to do it. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm going to do it if I want to do it. My life. The problem is, it hurts other people. The problem is, when people say, I never intended to hurt them, that wasn't my intention. We have to learn as people of faith, whether it's our intention or not, when we're in the fool's chair and we're doing those things that we know are not successful for us, it not only hurts us, it hurts all kinds of people who are around us. And those of you who are involved with the fool, know that. For every alcoholic, there are 7 people who are affected with that. And that's true of all kinds of foolish behavior. So when we say, okay, I got one DUI, and we're risking it again, we're in the fool's chair. I'm doing that thing that my body knows I shouldn't be doing. It's not healthy for me. It's a habit I've picked up. I know it's not healthy. But I'm going to do it anyway. Fool's chair. We can get out of the fool's chair. We can get out of the fool's chair. How do you get out of the fool's chair? You get out of the fool's chair by picking your head up out of the sand and beginning to look around at what the consequences are. The third one that he talks about, Solomon talks about in Proverbs, is called the mocker. The mocker. Now, honestly, this is a tough one. I hope you're not married to a mocker. I hope you don't work for a mocker, because this is hard. The mocker is the person who knows better and sees you trying to do better and doesn't care. In fact, doesn't want you to do any better. Solomon says those are the people who always run the conversation. Those are the people who are always putting somebody else down. And those are the people, when we are in the mocker chair, he has some very strong language for us. He says, if you are around people who are in the mocker's chair, the ones who say, and interestingly, Solomon says, you know what? Those are the people who will never come to a church. Those are people who never come to a faith community. And you know why? Because you don't bring them. You never bring a mocker to the church. Because you don't really want them to know you go to church. Because you don't want them giving that information. You don't even want to give mockers that kind of information that says, I'm trying to do better in an area of my life. Because they can't have that information. Because they're liable to mock you. Other translations of the Bible, they call it the scoffer. What he says about the mockers is really tough. Now, this is Solomon talking, not God. Solomon says this in Proverbs. He says, get rid of them. Just get rid of them. There's no hope for them. Just get rid of them. Now, we're in a faith community. We believe there's hope for everybody. But I'm telling you that I agree with Solomon. If there are people who are putting you down, if there are people who are in any way sabotaging your growth, get rid of them. Now look, there's a way to do it, and that's with love. To bless them and release them. But put them over there. You don't need to have them next to you as you're beginning to emerge your own divine potentiality. They're not safe. So heed Solomon's brilliant words. Get rid of them. Do it gently. Do it with love. We're not mean people. You don't have to shoot arrows at them on the way out. You just say, okay, I'm not answering your phone call. I'm not going out with you. I'm not going to shoot the breeze with you. I'm not going to do any of that with you anymore. Because it doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve the presence of God that is within me. Well, Solomon tells us this. He says, look, the danger of staying too long in any one of these chairs, remember, this is not a label. This is a spiritual virus. You can get rid of it. I forgot to tell you something I want to go back and tell you about the fool. The fool, the cure for the fool, you know, when I started writing the sermon, I thought, this is too harsh. Ooh, it's too harsh. You know, you don't call people fools and all. It's just too harsh. People might leave the church. People might say, I'm not coming back to this church ever again. But the truth is, you will come back. You will come back when the cure for the fool hits you. You know what the cure for the fool is? It's tragedy. And that's when we come back to church. We can get that before we get to that place with spiritual awareness. See, Solomon, he says if you stay in any of these too long, you not only will not hear when people are trying to give you wisdom, trying to help you, you won't not only not hear it, you won't even recognize it if you did hear it. So you want to stay a short period in any of these chairs. Now look, this is nothing about shame, nothing about blame. I've sat in all of these chairs. I have to say I've sat in the fool's chair way longer than I would like to have sat in that chair. So there's hope. What's the hope? It's spiritual awareness. It's getting your head out of the sand. Oh, I might be in one of those chairs. Every time you want to ask this powerful question, is this the wise thing for me to do at this moment? You have to also ask yourself, could I be in any of those three chairs? Because if I could, I may need some help first before I ask this powerful question. But when we ask that question, here's how you get out of it. You begin to start reading. If everybody here hasn't heard of the Science of Mind magazine, go in the bookstore and flip through it. It's a little tiny, itty-bitty, doesn't take you but a minute, shorter than your cereal box to read in the morning. Just look at it, and it's got a brilliant little thing to speak about. We have books in the bookstore. Get one and just make a habit of opening it up and reading it. That will enable you to have more spiritual awareness. Come to Kim's workshop and hear what the Taoists say. Find out. Begin to get curious. Come to classes. See a practitioner. You know, our practitioners, you all have a little insert in your bulletin, and it tells you what a practitioner is and what they do and how to get a free introductory session, or an introductory session for, I shouldn't say free, for a love offering. Try it out. See what happens. See if your life doesn't improve in that area. But the most important thing, these are important. And we're going to continue on with Ask It next week because I have some more to say about this. Not this, but other things. Because I want to get this question. Is this the wise thing for me to do? In light of my past experiences, in light of my current circumstances, in light of my future hopes and dreams, is this the wise thing for me to do? We're going to clear out all the gunk to get to that question and really hear the answer. So I hope I see you here also next week. Let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there is one power. It's the power of love, and it just runs through me right now. It just runs through me. Enabling me to see love wherever it is, because like attracts like, and like recognizes like. So I just fill my heart with the love that's wanting to get in. I give thanks for that. I give thanks for everybody in this congregation. I give thanks for everybody who's put this service together. I give thanks for the Great One for always saying yes. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.